Hey guys, welcome to round 6 here at Costa Mesa Regionals. Sorry, my bad. I can't count properly. My bad, guys. So round 7 actually of Costa Mesa Regionals. I'm Regina Angley, joining Lenduel behind the desk. Fun match. There's a couple Pokemon that I'm really, really excited to see. So they're doing another raffle. Oh gosh. So we've got Eduardo Trejo versus Emilio Forbes. So kind of pumped up to see how this match is going to go.
Yeah, Emilio, a NorCal player, got second at the San Jose Regional just this last fall. Eduardo from a little bit further south in SoCal, down from Tijuana, internationally, and doing really well. Both players 5-1 today, so not undefeated anymore. We've moved on to players who have taken a loss already, but these are players, kind of playing for their tournament lives. A second loss, probably going to eliminate you. Maybe one X2 player who moves on, but it'll probably be a player who doesn't take that second loss until the last round. So this is playing to stay in and stay playing for that top 8.
That's always so much more stressful sometimes, I feel. And so we've got for you guys on screen their teams right now. On your left side, we've got Eduardo with this Landorus, Theron, Metagross, Tapu Fini, Hydreigon, Cresselia, and Snorlax. And on your right side, we've got Emilio with the Metagross, Tapu Fini, Tyranitar, Amoonguss, Landorus, Theron, and Zapdos.
Yeah, on the right, Emilio showing a Metagross team that's kind of what we come to expect. That Metagross, Amoonguss, T-Tar, also Zapdos and Landorus, and then Fini thrown in for good measure. The other side, we see a Metagross again, but a lot less of those normal support Pokemon. No Amoonguss, no Tapu Lele, kind of out there on its own, but we do see that Cresselia, I think it's the first one we've seen today, and the Snorlax, so maybe a small Trick Room mode there between Cresselia and Snorlax.
Well, and also the Hydreigon choice too, especially against Tapu Fini, on that opposing team, or especially in a format where you've got a lot of fairies and this Hydreigon being super weak to it. But like you said, I think it is the first Cresselia. Yeah,
it's interesting. That Hydreigon probably there mainly to hit those Psychic and Ghost types really hard with big Dark moves. None of that on the other side other than the Metagross. I would expect we won't see it just because it has a rough time against things like the Tapu Fini and the Tyranitar. So.
Yeah, and so Eduardo locking in, and Emilio kind of taking their time. A little bit of 10 seconds left into this team choice right now. I'm super excited for Cresselia as well. It's been a while since we've seen it. And here we go, round 7, game 1, Eduardo Trejo versus Emilio Forbes. Gonna be an exciting match, crossing my fingers for it, as we go straight into this game 1 with their leads. And we will be having, yeah. So we've got Metagross and Landorus from Emilio's side hitting the field. A classic combination that we've seen a couple times. And Metagross and Landorus even more on Eduardo's side as well.
Yep, both Landoruses getting the Intimidate on the other Landorus within Clear Body, preventing 2 of the Intimidates out here. So both Metagross at full attack stat going into the first turn.
Yeah, and Eduardo's Intimidate going before Emilio's Intimidate on their Landorus.
Yeah, so either maybe just winning the speed tie there or signaling a trained faster Landorus. So maybe one Landorus is Choice Scarf and the other isn't. Lots of options for that. Be interesting. It's something that a lot of times players can read more into than we can. If they know how fast their Landorus is and then the other one is faster, that's something they can learn from.
It's going to be one of those things where you're going to have to really pay attention to those next couple of moves as they go into. Eduardo locking in 10 seconds onto his movesets right here. And Emilio just taking a little bit more time on that. Especially just having that mirror lead too. You trying to get that information out.
Yeah, if either Metagross is faster than one of the other Landorus, Ice Punch is a big threat here.
And so the Landorus on Eduardo's side switching out for the Tapu Fini. We're going to get that Misty Terrain into the field, so anything touching the ground will not be affected by any sort of status affliction. As the Landorus on Emilio's side also gets switched out for a Tapu Fini as well. So now we've got this Metagross and Tapu Fini versus Metagross and Tapu Fini, as the Metagross on Emilio's side comes out first. And will be Mega Evolving, getting that Tough Claws ability in place of Clear Body, so Intimidates will connect with it now. As Metagross on Eduardo's side actually stays as a Metagross and protects itself this turn. And Stomping Tantrum going into the non-Mega Metagross.
Yeah, so Emilio went ahead and went for it, tried to Stomping Tantrum, the Metagross on the other side. Eduardo wasn't ready to start Stomping Tantruming each other, so a kill turn, or maybe doesn't have the Stomping Tantrum, and so couldn't trade them. And so just protects himself for this turn. Both Tapu Finis come in. It'll be interesting if there's any difference in these Tapu Finis. Maybe one more offensive, more under threat from the other Metagross. Maybe one trying to calm mind and set up. Maybe one something more supportive for that Metagross. It could be a point where these 2 players start to diverge in what they're doing based on these Tapu Fini movesets.
Yeah. And now we have the Metagross from Eduardo's side, just choosing to Mega Evolve on this turn. So, not being able to protect because it protected last turn. And we will have the Metagross on Emilio's side protecting itself this turn, not going to take any potential stopping tantrum from Eduardo's Metagross, as Metagross actually goes for the Iron Head into the Tapu Fini slot, gets it to gets the flinch onto that Tapu Fini, as Eduardo's Tapu Fini uses Muddy Water and connects with Emilio's Tapu Fini as his Metagross protects himself.
Yeah, I mean, a great turn for Eduardo there. He does more than 50% of the Tapu Fini for free. Ends up getting the flinch, so he doesn't even have to take any damage back from the other Tapu Fini, and the Metagross, which would have been the bigger damage threat with something like Stomping Tantrum and Iron Head to his own Tapu Fini, just protects itself. And so a free, nice, like 60% damage to Tapu Fini here. Maybe Emilio can read into something about that, if maybe Metagross doesn't have Stomping Tantrum, so it didn't go for it, or just decided to go for the Iron Head.
Metagross switching out on Emilio's side for the Landorus, and so because the Metagross on Eduardo's side did Mega Evolve, it does lose that clear body, and look at the Intimidate and the attack drop from Emilio's Landorus. I'm going to be at -1 attack stage here, as Tapu Fini switches out on Eduardo's side into Landorus as well. Going to be getting the attack drop onto Emilio's Landorus and the Tapu Fini. Oh, this is going to get, I'm going to trip up at some point over these different Pokemon. And so we have Ice Punch, actually, from the Metagross on Eduardo's side, going to the Tapu Fini slot, as Tapu Fini shows its Icy Wind on Emilio's side, connecting with both Metagross and Landorus on Eduardo's side, going to get the speed drop onto those Pokemon.
Yeah, that's a great Icy Wind. Really valuable damage against Landorus, and then these two valuable speed drops should make the Landorus on Emilio's side faster than the Metagross, whether that Landorus is Choice Scarf or not, and then doesn't have to worry about whether that other Landorus on the other side is faster. May even have Tapu Fini now faster than that Landorus. And then so close to the Ice Punch prediction.
Man.
Went ahead and went for it, but chose the wrong slot. Instead, Ice Punching Tapu Fini for very minimal damage, while Landorus switches in safely right next door. And so doesn't manage to land the Ice Punch from Landorus that would have been so valuable. Really strong turn for Emilio as he kind of seizes control of field position with that Icy Wind.
And so Landorus switching out on Eduardo's side, going to be bringing back in that Tapu Fini onto the field. Going to save that Intimidate for later. As Metagross on Eduardo's side uses Protect, not going to take any other sort of damage from Tapu Fini or Landorus. As Tapu Fini from Emilio's side uses Scald onto Eduardo's Tapu Fini, no burn because of the Misty Terrain. And Landorus using Knockoff into the Tapu Fini spot on Eduardo's side and knocking off the Aghav Berry.
Yeah, maybe just hoping to get something valuable out of that slot no matter what happens with getting the knockoff and Scald there, and smart to predict the Protect from Metagross on the other side. Doesn't target that Pokemon at all. Tapu Fini still switches in relatively unscathed, resisting both those moves except losing its 50% Recovery Berry, which if you count on that happening at some point in the game, that's another 50% damage added to those two moves. So a valuable knockoff, and the reason knockoff is such a useful thing to do when you don't really know what you're going to be attacking on that turn.
Well, and that's also really nice because now you've got that mirror, but now you know exactly what your opponent's running as well.
Eduardo does manage to get his Landorus back into the back, undo that speed drop, give him the Intimidate again for later in the game. So still a good switch for him, even losing that berry, I think.
So Tapu Fini actually switching out on Eduardo's side for that Landorus. Like you said, those resets, now going to get that Intimidate once more onto Emilio's side. Going to be at -1 for that Landorus. Sorry, actually -2 now, I think, on Emilio's Landorus, and -2 on that Tapu Fini. As Tapu Fini scalds once more, this time into the Metagross slot on Eduardo's side. And we're getting the Z move from Emilio's Landorus.
Yeah, that Ground EMZ coming out. It's got to be targeting the Metagross. It should be the KO, even at -2 attack, I think. It's going to be close.
All right, and so we've got the Tectonic Rage from this Landorus, and we do get the full animation, so it does go into that Metagross.
And moving before that Metagross because of the Icy Wind speed drop, going to be a really valuable KO here to also deny the damage.
Yep, does pick up the knockout on there, so, even after those intimidates, that Z move, you want that power from it as the mist disappears from the field.
Yeah, that KO is massive. I mean, in this sort of mirror matchup, the first player to lose their Metagross, and Eduardo losing his Metagross much earlier than Emilio, who's got very much more healthy Pokemon. The Landorus has also taken more damage for Eduardo. Emilio doing well here. He did take that early damage on the Tapu Fini, so his Tapu Fini is less healthy than the one on the other side, but has its berry intact, and the berry has been knocked off from the one on Eduardo's side. Hydreigon hits the field here. Maybe he's in a decent position. Tapu Fini is weak enough that it could do something, but Hydreigon rarely carries anything that should be able to really be powerful against that Tapu Fini, and it's definitely going to be worried about any fairy attack like a Moonblast coming out.
Yeah, it's just so super weak to those, but that trade-off, I think, or like Landorus even showing that Z moves now for Eduardo, having that information is also like super important to him. As Emilio switches out his Tapu Fini for a Moongus, a Pokemon that we've seen like obviously a lot, can take some hits really comfortably. As Landorus uses the Earthquake, as the Landorus on Eduardo's side uses Earthquake, only going to be hitting that Amoonguss because we have two Pokemon who are levitating and not touching the ground. Amoonguss taking some good damage from that, still in the green obviously. As Hydreigon goes for a Tailwind on this turn.
Yeah.
I think has Emilio's. Oh, there we go. The knockoff from Emilio's Landorus into the Hydreigon. Gonna show off not knocking anything off. So
yeah, so revealing that Z move there, the Darkinium Z most likely onto Hydreigon. And Amoonguss taking quite a bit of damage from that Earthquake. Must be an Amoonguss that's trained more to take special attacks, taking nearly 50% from that Earthquake despite it being reduced damage because it's hitting multiple targets, even if those targets are immune to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, Landorus maybe projecting a Hydreigon switch there with the option of Moonblast that turn, and so tries to just knock off and get something useful in, and what comes in, even though what can come in is Tapu Fini, also wouldn't take much from knock off. So maybe just trying to scout the item also. Now he does know it's Darkinium Z and doesn't have to worry about something like a Choice Scarf.
And so Hydreigon actually protecting itself on this turn, as Landorus on the other side, on Emilio's side, also using Protect. So neither of these Pokemon taking hits, and Amoonguss also protecting, actually. So 3 protects here. The Landorus on Eduardo's side not going to hit anything because everybody protected, and we've got floating Pokemon on the field.
And that's one turn of Tailwind down.
There you go.
The Landorus on Eduardo's side still hasn't revealed its item, continues to Earthquake, maybe Choice Scarf. It is the most common Landorus item right now, I would say so. The Landorus, of course, on Emilio's side didn't have it and kind of surprised Eduardo with that Tectonic Rage that managed to pick up the KO onto Metagross. We've seen the Darkinium Z, or most likely the Darkinium Z, on Hydreigon now, and so probably not its second Z move. So we can start to expect the Choice Scarf there on Landorus. So stacked upon its Tailwind, it's also got that. Going to be easily the fastest thing around. Means that Metagross can't possibly switch in on the other side. It would take the Earthquake switching in and then take another Earthquake before it could attack, even if it managed to stall out the Tailwind. So going to be stuck with this field position for Emilio.
And Emilio actually switching out his Amoonguss for Tapu Fini. We are going to be getting the Misty Terrain once more onto this field. So both of Eduardo's Pokemon are floating though, so they will be affected by any sort of status afflictions. As Landorus goes for an Earthquake on Eduardo's side, not going to be connecting obviously with Emilio's Landorus, but does connect with the Tapu Fini.
Yeah, I said stuck with his field position, but one option is just to come in here and sacrifice that Tapu Fini.
Yeah, so we do say bye to Tapu Fini. He's going to be knocked out because of that Earthquake. And we've got the Darkinium Z. There we go.
Yeah, and knocked out before it was able to consume its berry. Went from above 25% straight to knocked out. So that Tapu Fini never ate its berry and just got knocked out. This Darkinium Z should do a lot of damage to this Landorus. I don't know if it'll be the KO. It's probably more bulky Landorus since it isn't that Choice Scarf variant. It doesn't have to train so heavily in speed. So it should be able to take this, but it's going to be still really valuable damage.
And so we've got that animation going, and going from a full health Landorus to just almost knocked out as Emilio's Landorus shows that Rock Tomb and knocking down the speed on Hydreigon.
Yeah, that Landorus, they're showing some pretty valuable ways to do useful things, even if it's not doing that much damage. Getting the Rock Tomb to drop this Hydreigon speed, get that knockoff earlier. Again, I still want it to do useful damage at some point, but it did get the Tectonic Rage for the KO. So if now it can just support and do things like take the Z move from the other side, that's pretty valuable.
And so we have Mega Metagross on Emilio's side hitting the field once more against Eduardo's Hydreigon and this Landorus, and Emilio's Landorus a little bit in the red.
Yeah, there's one more turn of Tailwind left. Whether or not this Hydreigon is faster than that Metagross in Tailwind, but at -1 speed is questionable. But the Landorus will definitely be faster in threatening a big Earthquake. We can also just protect and stall the trigger.
All right, well, Landorus actually switching out on Eduardo's side for the Tapu Fini, first Tapu Fini that was in the back, and the Landorus on Emilio's side also switching out for the Amoonguss this time, which is getting back its HP because of that regenerator ability. As Hydreigon goes for a Protect, not going to want to take any sort of attack that Metagross might be throwing its way, as Metagross also goes for Protect, but failing because there was no attack exchange, and Tailwind does expire on this turn.
Yeah, Metagross protecting itself just to get out of Tailwind. The Landorus switching out likely just because it expected to protect. Thought it wasn't going to do anything valuable. Could have gotten some damage on that Amoonguss, but instead switches out, gets Tapu Fini in, and importantly resets that Intimidate for later in the game, and could maybe hit the field at a point where Metagross can't switch. Maybe he doesn't even have Protect available, and you can land that Earthquake, because that may be a really important part of this end game.
Well, so Tapu Fini switching out, gonna have that Landorus in for that intimidate cycle, as I like to call it, and other people do as well, into the Amoonguss and the Metagross. Gonna knock down a stage of attack on that Metagross. As the Amoonguss goes for the Rage Powder, gonna be redirecting all attacks into it, so just this Hydreigon, which is gonna be attacking, as Ice Punch comes from the Metagross into the Hydreigon slot. Not enough to actually pick up a knockout in here, and Hydreigon going for the Dark Pulse into the Amoonguss slot because of the Rage Powder. Just minimal damage.
Yeah, that really valuable Rage Powder there. That would have maybe been the KO, but at least been a lot of damage on that Metagross, and definitely put it into KO range for whatever that Landorus that just hit the field would have done. Instead, it just does, like you said, minimal damage to that Amoonguss. It's still very healthy. Now that Landorus is threatening Earthquake, we think it's Choice Scarf. It should be able to outspeed this Metagross, but probably not KO with Earthquake, and so going to risk an Ice Punch either outspeeding and KOing that Hydreigon or returning for the KO against Landorus if Emilio's willing to make that trade.
Well, Hydreigon switching out for Tapu Fini on Eduardo's side, and Amoonguss being switched out on Emilio's side for that Landorus. So we will be getting another Intimidate from Emilio's Landorus into Eduardo's Landorus and his Tapu Fini. I think this Landorus is just at -1 right now. And Landorus on Eduardo's side going to be using U-turn, so not matter that much because it will be returning. Excuse me, and going to be resetting all that attack drop from it.
Yeah, had gotten that one Intimidate, but immediately goes in the back, wants to be able to reset Intimidate again and be on the field where it can KO Metagross, not just risk doing a lot of damage, but getting Ice Punched back.
So Iron Head from Metagross going to the Tapu Fini slot on Eduardo's side, and just a little bit of switching out a lot from Eduardo's side.
Yeah, smart play, because if it had hit Hydreigon, it would have been the KO. Instead, it hits Tapu Fini, the only thing in the back that could have come into that Hydreigon slot, and still does really valuable damage. So just, covering all of his bases, making sure he gets something useful done this turn. Hydreigon still has to really worry about Ice Punch coming out, and Tapu Fini can trade back, but it's something like an Iron Head and a Rock Slide or a Rock Tomb could be enough damage to KO it.
Amoonguss being switched out for that Landorus on Emilio's side. Eduardo actually only has 26 seconds of your time left, by the way, so this is going to be a really tight game for him as Hydreigon goes for the Protect and Metagross goes for the Ice Punch into the protected slot on Hydreigon. Tapu Fini connecting Muddy Water onto both Pokemon on Emilio's side. Like that, Amoonguss is back at full health because of Regenerator. Not going to do that much damage to either one of these Pokemon. And the mist disappears. We got 26 seconds left on Eduardo's side and 36 on Emilio's.
Yeah, this has been a really long game with a lot of pivoting, a lot of field position changes. Both players starting to run out of time. Both players are going to have to start moving very quickly, and Eduardo's not really. He's killed so far 12 seconds of that.
Yeah, and Ice Punch once more from the Metagross into the Hydreigon slot. Going to be picking up the knockout onto Eduardo's Hydreigon. And Tapu Fini, Muddy Water once more connecting into both Pokemon. Does not do that much damage. Might get the accuracy drop on either one of them. Does get it on the Metagross. And the Spore from Amoonguss, though, going to be putting this Tapu Fini to sleep because Misty Terrain did expire. Yeah,
but I just don't see how Eduardo can play out of this. He's going to have to bring his Landorus, and he's going to have to lock it into one move. And if that move is Earthquake, then yeah, you can get through this Metagross, and, maybe the Amoonguss is going to get put to sleep. But you're also KOing your Tapu Fini, and you won't be able to ever do any damage to the Landorus in the back. So you can't go with Earthquake. You have to go for something else, and something else is going to be a Rock Slide. So you're going to be looking for Rock Slide flinches, I think.
Oof. With 8 seconds to go, and less than that against the 31-second thing, I think Eduardo's
just going to let it expire. It looks like. Nope, gets it in.
Well, the Metagross being withdrawn on Emilio's side for the Landorus, going to be getting the Intimidate, and there's going to be no resetting this time on Eduardo's side, not just because of the time, but because he's got no more Pokemon left in the back. So any sort of attack from Eduardo's Landorus is just going to do a little bit less than it had before. Locks himself into Earthquake, going to be doing almost no damage onto that Amoonguss, and does some okay damage onto his own Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini staying fast asleep for his Amoonguss, which most likely go for Spore onto that Landorus and connects.
Yeah, interestingly, if Landorus hadn't been asleep, it would have been forced to Earthquake and KO Tapu Fini next turn, ending the game. But I think the 3 seconds will end the game. There just isn't enough time to make enough moves to KO all these Pokemon.
Yeah, and we see the forfeit screen coming up from Eduardo's side. But I think a lot of that had to do with them just kind of switching so often in the beginning and having those mirrors and trying to tease out information from each other.
Yeah, lots of different changes in momentum. Very much a mirror match with one Pokemon different. You saw the Hydreigon. It did provide that Tailwind and the Darkinium Z against the Landorus, but since it didn't get the KO and then was always at risk of that Ice Punch, didn't feel like it actually provided that much. The Mungus, on the other hand, provided that really important Rage Powder that kept Metagross healthy, and then also Spores to close out the game. I think Eduardo is going to have to find a way that if he's going to play this 3 Pokemon versus 3 Pokemon mirror, he can't let the 4th matchup be Hydreigon versus Amoonguss. And he also can't allow that Icy Wind. That was a big change in momentum where he lost a bunch of health to his Landorus and the speed decrease that changed the momentum a lot.
And I think the hard part too was that him having that Landorus in the back for Hydreigon, like whatever, even if he had switched, he would have taken the Ice Punch regardless for either Pokemon. So once more on your screen, guys, we've got Eduardo with the Landorus, T, the Metagross, Tapu Fini, Hydreigon, Cresselia, and Snorlax on your left side, and on your right side, Emilio with that Metagross, Tapu Fini, Tyranitar, Amoonguss, Landorus, Therian, and that Zapdos.
Yeah, it's interesting because if I say you need a 4th Pokemon other than that Hydreigon, Cresselia may be useful, but could definitely end up in terrible matchups against Tyranitar. Snorlax, if you don't bring the support for it, also may not be that useful. So it's going to be tough here. Maybe it takes an entire mode change.
Yeah, and I think that's just something they're going to have to consider. Like especially Eduardo, like is he going to change what Emilio's going to bring or not? And going into this round, going to match 2 of round 7 here at Costa Mesa, and Tapu Fini and Metagross coming from Emilio. So a little bit of a change that Tapu Fini instead of the Landorus, as Eduardo goes for the Landorus and Tapu Fini. And the Landorus is Intimidate from Eduardo, going to be hitting first, but not going to be getting that attack drop onto that Metagross. And the Tapu Fini's Misty Surge on Emilio's side comes out before Eduardo's.
Yeah, so maybe revealing something about the speeds of those Tapu Finis. Landorus does come in here unintimidated, unlike last game, but still not intimidating anything useful, going to the special attacker Tapu Fini and then that clear body on Metagross. So far, we haven't seen any Pokemon changes. These are, of course, Pokemon that were all brought in the last game, and there was so much switching, so much change that if the Pokemon are the same, which ones are out first, maybe doesn't matter all that much unless you are stuck in a really terrible position, which I don't think either player is here yet. Landorus does have to watch out for Ice Punch, but can easily U-turn out, get away from that. There should be answers to that Ice Punch. But that's another thing Hydreigon doesn't provide for you. It can't bring it into Ice Punch.
And so Tapu Fini on Eduardo's side, switching out from Metagross, going to be hitting the field here. And the Metagross on Emilio's side, protecting itself against any sort of attack that it might be taking from Eduardo's Pokemon. As the U-turn from Eduardo goes into the protected Metagross, and Tapu Fini free to use a Moonblast into that Metagross slot. Just going to get some damage out onto this Metagross right now.
Yeah, the Metagross on Emilio's side makes the smart read, doesn't allow itself to be U-turned. Could have been punished with a water move from Tapu Fini or that Icy Wind, but instead it's Moonblast, trying to get some nice damage on a Tapu Fini and finds itself hitting a Metagross. So another turn where not much changes. Now the Metagross on both sides are in and going to be threatening each other. We still have not seen a stopping tantrum from Eduardo's side. May not actually have it.
And Emilio choosing to Mega Evolve on this turn, so his Metagross will be evolving into Mega Metagross. Ooh, say that 5 times fast. And the Metagross on Eduardo's side, not Mega Evolving this turn, but choosing to protect itself as Landorus U-turns into this Metagross slot now. Going to go back to Eduardo, and Eduardo will be able to get a Pokemon out onto this field.
Yeah, going to be looking for something that can maybe take something like an Icy Wind from that Tapu Fini that's coming out in this turn, and Tapu Fini is the perfect thing for that.
So Eduardo's own Tapu Fini hitting this field as Metagross on Emilio's side goes for the Iron Head into the Tapu Fini slot on Eduardo's, as the Tapu Fini on Emilio's side does use Icy Wind, but Tapu Fini avoiding the attack as Metagross protects itself, so no speed drops on Eduardo's side.
Yeah, that speed drop missing may end up mattering. Damage, of course, wouldn't have, and Tapu Fini is going to be one of the slower Pokemon in this matchup no matter what, but that Iron Head is great damage. It's unintimidated, nearly 50% damage to that Tapu Fini. Great to pick that up in this mirror match. They can a lot of times just be all about tiny exchanges of damage. Getting a big piece like that is, a piece of the puzzle you need to start breaking holes in this team. Once Tapu Fini's gone, then the Ice Punch is harder to deal with. That Icy Wind is harder to deal with, and so it's all about finding the first chink in the armor.
Yeah, and Tapu Fini switching out for Landorus into this slot. And we'll be getting the Intimidate onto that Metagross, and the Tapu Fini gonna really want to just kind of lower the attack slowly onto Emilio's own Metagross again, because it didn't get the Intimidate from last time. But we will be getting the Mega Metagross from Eduardo on this turn, so it will lose the Clear Body, get that Tough Claws ability. Excuse me, and the Metagross on Emilio's side gonna be using Protects. So not going to take any sort of damage here, as Thunder Punch from Eduardo's Metagross goes into the Tapu Fini slot, gets it under half health, and Moonblast once more from Tapu Fini into the Landorus slot.
Yeah, that Thunder Punch picking up another big piece of damage, bigger than that Iron Head could have been, but I think it reveals there's no Stomping Tantrum, and so you're paying a high opportunity cost to have the ability to get that Thunder Punch in for about 70%. It looks like maybe 65. That means that Metagross on the other side would feel pretty safe if there wasn't a Landorus coming out. The Metagross has taken some damage on Emilio's side, has to be a little worried about those Earthquakes stack, just getting the KO. Probably not from this range. Landorus does need to worry itself about things like Icy Wind and Ice Punch, but that Tapu Fini is low enough you can probably just Thunder Punch it and then feel safe with that Landorus. Or switch it out.
There you go, yeah, and so Tapu Fini being switched in on Eduardo's side in place of that Landorus, so we've got kind of like this weird mirror match until Emilio switches out that Metagross for his own Landorus, going to be getting the attack drop onto Eduardo's Tapu Fini and his Mega Metagross. Again, seeing that damage on that Thunder Punch, going to want to like negate it just as much as you can. And the Tapu Fini actually on Emilio's side also switching out for a Moongus once more. So a little bit of a Pokemon shuffle, if you will. And Metagross using Iron Head into the Amoonguss slot does some okay damage on there in place of that Tapu Fini.
Does quite a bit. You know, I'm just like the last game surprised at how much these physical attacks are doing to that Amoonguss. That's an intimidated Iron Head doing like 40% to Amoonguss. That's really good damage. Means that Ice Punch is probably a KO. We have seen now all 4 Pokemon on Emilio's side. It's the same 4 as the last game. We interestingly haven't seen the 4th on Eduardo's side yet, so we don't know if he committed to continuing with Hydreigon or if he has made some pivot, but we do see the 3 that really make this a mirror match.
And Metagross on Eduardo's side. Oh, there we go. We've got that last Pokemon from here. And it is that Hydreigon once more, as Tapu Fini on Eduardo's side is going to be protecting itself on this turn. And Landorus using knockoff into, Emilio's Landorus using knockoff into the protected Tapu Fini as Amoonguss goes for the Spore into the Hydreigon spot that was the Landorus spot. So this Hydreigon is now asleep.
Yeah, the Landorus, the only Pokemon vulnerable to Spore on the previous field position because it was flying. Hydreigon switches in Levitating, also vulnerable to Spore and falls straight asleep right as the Misty Train expires, which means that Amoonguss can continue to Spore in the other slot because unless Emilio brings in Misty Train himself, Eduardo with Tapu Fini on the field already won't be able to do it himself. Landorus is also threatening that Tectonic Rage could just KO Tapu Fini from this health, and without being punished with it because that Hydreigon has to sleep for at least the next turn. Wouldn't be surprised also if Amoonguss doesn't want to Spore because you are going for something like the Tectonic Rage KO. It's in a great position to just heal back off that chunk of damage that came onto it with Iron Head by switching out and getting that Regenerator.
And, you know, that's exactly what Emilio wants to do. He is switching out that Amoonguss for his own Metagross. That Regenerator going to be giving Amoonguss a little bit more health as the turns pass. And Hydreigon staying asleep this turn, taking its, like, necessary sleep turn. And the Landorus on Emilio's side using knockoff into the Tapu Fini slot, going to be knocking off that berry that we saw earlier. And Tapu Fini goes for the Muddy Water, misses the Metagross, but does connect with the Landorus.
Yeah, you know, it would have been great to hit both, but hits the more important target here in the Landorus. And I think that knockoff must have been predicting a switch. You know, doesn't punish this Tapu Fini too badly. I think that's a really valuable Muddy Water, even with the miss onto Metagross. Though it is an important miss, because I think if it hits, then you're looking at a Metagross that's in Earthquake KO range for that Landorus in the back. Hydreigon now has slept for a turn. He would wake up, and so Emilio has to account for anything that Hydreigon could be doing. Can KO either of these Pokemon with that Black Hole Eclipse from the Darkinium Z. So a dangerous field position all around. Lots of possible KOs that could be the first one. And like I said, that first KO can often lead to the holes in the team that start making things fall apart. We saw once Eduardo lost his Metagross first in the previous game, it started to become a lot more difficult for him, and eventually it was too much, and he lost the game.
So Landorus on Emilio's side being switched out for Tapu Fini will be getting the Misty Terrain once more onto the field. So any spores from Amoonguss into like that Tapu Fini won't be connecting, but we do still have that Landorus in the back. And Tapu Fini being switched out on Eduardo's side for the Landorus, going to be intimidating the Mega Metagross and that Tapu Fini slot. Again, that Mega Metagross being the most important one that you're trying to lower its attack stat on. And we're going to see if this Hydreigon can wake up on this turn. But as Metagross uses Iron Head into the Hydreigon slot, gets it to just a little bit over, still in the green. And Hydreigon does stay asleep for another turn. Yeah,
but based on that Iron Head damage, Ice Punch is definitely a KO if it wants to go for that. Ice Punch would obviously also be a KO onto the Landorus on the other side. Still, I don't think that Metagross is in range for Earthquake, but it would be a pretty valuable Earthquake either way, because even if it doesn't KO either of these, it's lots of damage out. You're probably triggering the Berry on Tapu Fini and doing good damage to Metagross, but you risk Landorus just coming in, intimidating that, and weakening it, and you're then locked into Earthquake. Hydreigon continues to sleep, could wake up this turn, but also could just take an Ice Punch. It's going to be interesting to see how much Eduardo values it, if it's worth bringing that sleeping Metagross into the back just to save it. Maybe you just risk clicking Protect and hoping it wakes up.
And so Eduardo switching out his Landorus for Tapu Fini. The Tapu Fini being in the yellow, just not, super healthy right now. As Emilio switches out his own Tapu Fini for Landorus, going to be getting the Intimidate onto both Hydreigon and Tapu Fini.
Missed Intimidate there.
Oh, sorry.
Like two special attackers.
Yeah,
bringing in Landorus with Intimidate. It's not so valuable.
And so Ice Punch from Metagross actually into what was that Landorus spot. And is now that Tapu Fini as Hydreigon wakes up, goes for the Darkinium Z.
Yeah, this should be a KO onto the Metagross, I would expect. You've got to eliminate that Metagross as soon as you can, and maybe Emilio just, trying his luck a little bit too much with that Hydreigon staying asleep.
Yeah, and so, like you said, and I think if you're Eduardo, you're breathing a sigh of relief, like, yes, okay, I'm so glad this woke up this turn. Does get the knockout onto Emilio's Metagross because of that Darkinium Z. Those Z moves are so great. But I think, are we also, oh no.
Yeah, so it's, it really was a big risk for Emilio because he could have just clicked Ice Punch and eliminated that Hydreigon and not had the risk of that coming in. Instead, he's the first person to take a KO in this match, or rather this game, and it's a really valuable one in that Mega Metagross that exerts so much offensive pressure. Now, all these Pokemon that were looking like, well, that's just too low in health to be useful anymore. Oh, well, now there's no Mega Metagross.
Oh.
You're plenty healthy.
And so Landorus being switched out on Emilio's side for that Amoonguss, which is back in the green over here because of that regenerator. Tapu Fini on Eduardo's side going to be protecting itself on this turn, not going to take any sort of damage. As Hydreigon goes for the Dark Pulse into the Amoonguss slot, not doing that much damage as Moonblast from Tapu Fini connects to that Hydreigon, going to be super effective against it, and will pick up the knockout here.
Yeah, Hydreigon deciding to just stay in against Tapu Fini and is punished for that with a Moonblast for a KO. And so both players have lost a Pokemon, but I think that Hydreigon did its job admirably in KOing that Metagross.
And so now Eduardo is free to bring his Metagross back onto this field in place of that fallen Hydreigon.
Yeah, and we've seen damage onto this Amoonguss a lot of times. I definitely think it's an Ice Punch KO range where it's at. Metagross is healthy enough to not be too worried about what the Tapu Fini on the other side is doing, especially with Misty Terrain down. You're not worried about Scald Burns. So this feels like a safe position to go for an Ice Punch there. Landorus in the back would be the only thing to take it. That would also get KO'd.
Right. And so Emilio using Rage Powder, going to draw any sort of attacks to itself. Metagross, though, going for that Ice Punch anyway, going to be connecting to the Amoonguss slot, is enough to pick up that knockout onto the Amoonguss. So, Rage Powder not mattering that much. As Tapu Fini on Emilio's side, going to be using Icy Wind to connect with both Pokemon and lower their speed stat.
Yeah, that's valuable for Emilio because it drops the speed below the speed of his Landorus in the back because it isn't holding the Choice Scarf, has the Ground DMZ.
And Eduardo finishing off this turn with his own Moonblast into the Tapu Fini on the other side. But it does put Emilio's Tapu Fini into the berry range. Going to eat that berry and gain back all that health.
The important thing, though, is that Landorus comes back in, can intimidate this Metagross that's already at -1 speed, and it's as easy for Eduardo as just switching Metagross back into Landorus, intimidating this other Landorus, and undoing both of those drops. And then this Metagross comes back in on the field looking so powerful, healthy enough to take damage from this Tapu Fini, faster than the Landorus on the other side, threatening the KO. It would be really difficult then for Emilio to play out of that. So I think Emilio basically needs to expect that switch to happen and try to find a way to overcome that anyway. He needs to try to get the KO on the Tapu Fini. Probably can't allow another Moonblast to come out into his own Tapu Fini because then you start looking at that damage stacking up too quickly.
And like you said, we have Metagross switching out for Landorus on Eduardo's side. Going to be intimidating that Landorus and Tapu Fini on Emilio's side. And again, this Landorus on Emilio's side being one of the last two Pokemon is going to be taking those intimidates consistently. As Tapu Fini goes for the Scald on Emilio's side, going to be connected with the Landorus, does pick up the knockout on here, but that Metagross in the back is now reset on its stats.
I think this is exactly the play that needed to happen to punish this switch because now you're taking both KOs. It's Metagross versus the world. This is still possible, absolutely. It's going to basically be a 50-50 on whether this Landorus protects on the next turn while Ice Punch goes into it. But this is exactly the play that needed to happen to get the most out of that forced switch on Metagross.
And the Tectonic Rage from Emilio's Landorus is going to be connecting to that Tapu Fini, which was already at pretty low health. And so it is going to be knocked out. And like you said, Metagross versus the world here. This is going to be a little stressful for Eduardo, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I called it a 50-50. I truly think that's what it is. Thunder Punch, if it lands on Tapu Fini while Landorus protects, is the KO. And the next punch, you just Ice Punch for the KO.
Oh.
But if you Ice Punch Landorus when it doesn't protect, then you take whatever Tapu Fini does and Thunder Punch the next turn to win. So you just Does Landorus protect? Do you predict the protect? That's going to decide this game right here. And, the only other element of this is if Scald managed to get the burn.
All right, so the Thunder Punch from Metagross is going to knock
Miss the prediction.
Yeah.
Landorus doesn't protect. It's going to be Earthquaking here. It should be the KO.
Oh! Rock Tombs.
Okay.
All right.
That's, you're risking the Rock Tomb missing, but you get a little bit extra chip damage. And I assume he knows that Landorus is now going to be faster and be able to hit that full-strength Earthquake. Only the 2 Pokemon left on the field, so it does go back to 100 base power, not the weakened Earthquake we normally see in VGC. Should be enough damage to pick up the KO.
And Eduardo just trying to delay this as he uses Protect, but knows that that Earthquake is going to be coming for him in that next turn. Oh, that is a rough 50-50 to try to predict, though. Landorus being faster because of that earlier Rock Tomb, going to be knocking out this Metagross with that Earthquake because it will be taking that single target damage.
No, it doesn't have the damage. Maybe a more bulky. It just doesn't have it.
That Intimidate from earlier on, from that Landorus. Oh my gosh. That was what? And the critical hit, the unnecessary critical hit on here.
Wow, so misses the prediction. Doesn't manage to guess that protect right, but wins anyway.
That Intimidate, I totally forgot. That Landorus was intimidated from earlier, from Eduardo's own Landorus, and so that -1 attack drop made all the difference for Emilio right there. And now we are going to be going into that game 3.
It's the Intimidate and also not having access to the Groundinium Z anymore. Used it against that Tapu Fini, and maybe could have just Earthquake there to pick up the KO, but then you're looking at whether it does the -1 KO Earthquake KO that Tapu Fini and you're Earthquaking your own Tapu Fini. Maybe it doesn't end up mattering if you just assume Thunder Punch KOs, but it's a very normal, consistent play to just, I have something here in front of me that I can Tectonic Rage and KO it. I'm sure he would have wished he still had it at the end of the game.
I mean, hey, if you're Emilio, at least now you know that a -1 Intimidate, a -1 Earthquake is not enough even on a single target for Metagross.
Yeah, single target damaged Metagross. Yeah, the Metagross already was down to about 70% health, I think.
That's, ridiculous. And I think the hardest part for, especially I think for us right here is figuring out what's been Intimidated and what hasn't and keeping count of that.
Yeah, I knew the Intimidate we knew, but I still thought the damage was there. It's so hard to know exactly how all these Landorses are trained, how much damage they're going to be outputting on each other, and wasn't enough there. We will move on to Game 3 here. We've seen the same 4 Pokemon from both players in both games, different leads in the 2 games, but like we talked about earlier, there's so much switching, so much repositioning that it really doesn't feel like – some matchups it feels like that lead determination is so critical. It can swing the entire game. This one doesn't have that feeling to it.
I think Eduardo, did do a little bit better, switching. He understood that a Mungus on the other side was something he needed to get rid of as well, especially given that some of the attacks had missed from Eduardo's side. So we will be going to Game 3. Both players locking in relatively quickly. Just if nobody brings the Zapdos, the pressure will still be on anyway. As we go into this match for round 6 of Costa Mesa. Tapu Fini and Metagross once more from Emilio's side. And we will be getting the Landorus and Metagross from Eduardo's side this time. Throwback to Game 1 of this round.
Yeah, I think it's actually the same leads we saw from both players in the last game. And was there?
I think there was a little bit of a difference.
Anyway, same Pokemon, same 4 Pokemon that we've, or rather 2 of the same 4 that we've seen from both players in both games. So nothing significant has changed yet. I think it's going to be really interesting to see if – I would expect the Mungus to be the same. It's, I think, proven its worth. It'll be interesting to see if the Hydreigon is the same. It felt like it proved its worth in the last game, got the KO on Metagross, but it did take waking from sleep while Metagross kind of ignores it. So
that's a little bit of an issue, yeah. That one was a bit iffy on that. So Landorus on Eduardo's side switching out for Cresselia.
A new Pokemon.
So we do have a different Pokemon on the side. Cresselia, the first one I think I've literally seen all day. It's Tapu Fini on Emilio's side being switched out for Landorus. Going to be intimidating the Cresselia, but not quite the Metagross on Eduardo's side because of that clear body. And the Metagross on Emilio's side going to go straight into that Mega Evolution as we've seen from the previous games. Always going for that turn 1 Mega Evolution. And it will be attack. And Eduardo's Metagross protecting itself, not going for the Mega Evolution, as Metagross on Emilio's side goes for the Iron Head into the Cresselia spot.
Yeah, that's a great piece of damage. 40% to Cresselia is so useful. Cresselia is going to be out here making Landorus think about what it's doing, worried about the ice beams, but also a very vulnerable target to knock off. That's a lot of damage, and even if you don't manage to pick up the KO, it's knocking off Cresselia most likely is 50% recovery berry. We've already seen that the Metagross on Eduardo's side does not have Stomping Tantrum, not going to be too much of a threat to the Metagross on the other side, but does have that Ice Punch, and the Landorus on Emilio's side we know is not Choice Scarf, so really has to worry about that Ice Punch coming out and just KOing it before it moves. Probably can't take that risk, and so you'll need to switch.
And Emilio thinking the same thing as he switches out his Landorus for the Tapu Fini that he had earlier. We already have Misty Terrain up still. But Eduardo going for this Mega Evolution now and going to be Mega Evolving his Metagross, losing that Clear Body, so we'll be taking Intimidates later on. And we'll be going for, Cresselia going for the Ally Switch here. Going to be switching spots with that Metagross on the field as Metagross on Emilio's side goes for the Stomping Tantrum into the now Ally Switch side, and Metagross on Eduardo's side going for Tapu Fini, gets the critical hit, but again, no freeze possible because of this terrain. That was a lot.
Reveals Ally Switch. You always get it on the first time you reveal it. Stomping Tantrum goes right into that levitating Cresselia and does no damage. From now on, though, Emilio's going to be aware of it, aware of the threat, and we're back to mind games. Tapu Fini takes a decent chunk of damage with an Ice Punch because of that critical hit. Damage that may end up mattering later. Cresselia now doesn't really provide too much. If it has Psychic, it can start stacking those up against Tapu Fini. Maybe could Helping Hand Thunder Punch the Tapu Fini if that's an option, but also could just keep ally switching.
Yeah. And so Stomping Tantrum from Emilio's side going into that Metagross does pick up the
critical
knockout
hit?
on there.
Wow.
Not a critical hit, so it does just immediately knock
Failed
it
into
out.
the Levitate on the previous turn, so that was that 150 base power Stomping
that's right.
Tantrum.
That's right. That new mechanic on that for this move, as the Icy Wind from Tapu Fini connects with Cresselia, gets the speed drop, and the Metagross does take this Ice Beam from Cresselia. Oh yeah, you're right. That totally slipped our mind. That Stomping Tantrum, once it fails on a turn, does double its attack power the next turn. And the Landorus on Eduardo's side coming in for that fallen Metagross, going to be intimidating Metagross and that Tapu Fini.
Yeah, normally you expect your Metagross to be able to take one Stomping Tantrum, but those are the dangers of Ally Switch. You get it right once, and then you're double punished on the next turn. And now Landorus comes in, but this is kind of like we saw in the first game, but even more extensive, where the Metagross on Eduardo's side goes down before it accomplishes much, and really early in the game. And so this is going to be a 3-on-4, and no Hydreigon is a secondary, powerful offensive Pokemon. Cresselia is not going to provide that. You're going to need your Choice Scarf Landorus and your Tapu Fini to provide it.
Ooh. So Metagross on Emilio's side protecting this turn, as Landorus on Eduardo's side going to be getting the critical hit U-turn onto Tapu Fini, going to be going back to Eduardo, and will be getting his last Pokemon, that Tapu Fini, onto the field against Emilio's Tapu Fini and that Metagross, as Tapu Fini goes for another Icy Wind, going to get another speed drop onto Cresselia and a -1 on Tapu Fini.
Yeah, two targets aren't too valuable to hit with Icy Wind. Was hoping to hit that Landorus. Instead, Tapu Fini comes in.
Yeah, and Cresselia going for the Ice Beam onto protected Metagross. So, oof.
Yeah, it's going to be tough from here. Maybe there's something like a Calm Mind isn't out. You have to be looking for other sources of damage, other win conditions, and it's got to be Tapu Fini. Just because a Choice Scarf Landorus doesn't have that ability to carry you through the game, it can, really change the momentum quickly. It can take away your opponent's momentum, can put you in a great spot, but it's hard to sweep with it.
Yeah. And so Metagross on Emilio's side being switched out for this Amoonguss that we've seen put in a lot of work in the first two games, as Tapu Fini from Emilio's side going to be faster because of all those speed drops, and Moonblast into the Tapu Fini slot on Eduardo's side, but Tapu Fini will be Calm Minding on this turn, so it does get a plus to its special attack and its special defense. And Cresselia going to be the last thing moving on this field as it goes for Trick Room.
Yeah, that's kind of rough. Those Icy Winds coming out, so you're looking for the Trick Room, but then Amoonguss hits the field right as the Misty Terrain expires, going to be threatening those spores. Tapu Fini should, in Trick Room, be slower than Amoonguss. By that I mean Amoonguss will move first, and be threatening the spore against either of these Pokemon, and you just got your Calm Mind up, so you don't want to be switching out the Tapu Fini to get the Misty Terrain back.
Is that even after all the minuses from Icy Wind?
I believe it will be. Amoonguss is so slow.
That's true.
We'll have to see.
Cresselia going for Ally Switch, and will be switching spots with its ally, Tapu Fini, as the Spore from Amoonguss going into the Tapu Fini slot anyway.
Predicting the Ally Switch there.
So the Tapu Fini is going to be asleep now, and going to be sleeping on this turn, not going to be able to attack, as Tapu Fini on Emilio's side going to be moon blasting into that Tapu Fini slot as well.
Yeah, I think a predicted ally switch there gets both hits onto the Tapu Fini, which is exactly where he wants them. The next turn, I would expect to see that Spore go into Cresselia. That way you either are forcing it to ally switch again, which is just a dead turn for Cresselia, or you're putting it to sleep also. This is going to be a tough position for Eduardo to play out of just because of his own Trick Room.
And so a Spore once more from Amoonguss connecting with this Cresselia on Eduardo's side. No ally switch from it that time. Going to be asleep for this turn. And this Tapu Fini will be asleep for another turn, leaving Emilio's Tapu Fini free to attack with Moonblast. Onto this Tapu Fini, going to get into its half health right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's just going to keep throwing these Moonblasts out. There's no reason not to. That damage is going to stack up. The +1 defense Tapu Fini's not taking too much damage from them, but this Amoonguss is keeping you in such a good spot. And that Clear Smog can get rid of the boost and do some decent damage itself.
Yeah, and Clear Smog going to get rid of the plus special attack and the plus special defense from that Calm Mind earlier. Tapu Fini staying asleep and Cresselia staying asleep on this turn. Again, this Tapu Fini just going to go for some damage, and it does use Scald onto the Cresselia. Obviously no burn because Cresselia is asleep right now.
Yeah, that Clear Smog revealed and so valuable. That Tapu Fini now at lower special defense. I think that Moonblast will be a KO, and you'll bypass that berry straight by, which would be kind of devastating for Eduardo. He needs that Tapu Fini, and he's going to need that health on that Tapu Fini. Both of these Pokemon asleep. It's just rough here. He's going to have to hope for something to wake up and hope for things to go his way.
And there we go. Tapu Fini waking up on this turn on Eduardo's side does go for the Protect and will be protecting itself as Amoonguss uses Clear Smog once more into that Tapu Fini slot. And Cresselia also waking up, getting the Ice Beam into that Amoonguss slot. I'm going to do some okay damage on there. And Moonblast once more from Tapu Fini on Emilio's side into the protected Tapu Fini on Eduardo's side as Trick Room expires.
Yeah, probably revealing no Psychic move on that Cresselia, or you would have done for that because you're trying to hopefully get that 2-hit KO on Amoonguss. Instead, Ice Beam comes out, and, Eduardo's really going to be disappointed in that damage output. He's going to need more than that.
Moonblast from Emilio's Tapu Fini going to connect into the Tapu Fini
get the KO.
on Eduardo's. Yeah, like you said, does not get the KO, but does proc the berry that we saw earlier that had been knocked off from it. As Tapu Fini on Eduardo's side does go for the Muddy Water, misses it on Emilio's Tapu Fini, connects with the Amoonguss. Does sad damage on there. No accuracy drop, and Ice Beam once more from Eduardo's Cresselia into that Amoonguss slot, just kind of like stacking up the damage on there. And Spore once more from Amoonguss into that Cresselia.
Yeah, I mean, this is just going nowhere quickly for Eduardo. He just doesn't have the damage output. He gave up that Metagross so quickly, and then he made that pivot to bring Cresselia instead of Hydreigon, and those two things just decimated his offensive output in this game. He's just getting slowly whittled down by Amoonguss and Tapu Fini. He's not doing damage any faster than they are, and he needs to do damage much faster than they do to be able to combat then that Landorus and Metagross that are still in the back for Emilio's side.
And so Amoonguss being switched out on Emilio's side, going to get that is a little bit of HP back because of that regenerator. As we get Metagross into the field once more, this really scary Metagross that, can just do a lot of damage now. And protect from Eduardo's Tapu Fini, not going to take any damage. As Tapu Fini on Emilio's side going to be using Icy Wind, this Cresselia is going to be at, I think, -3 speed right now. So it is going to be even slower than it already was from before. But still going to be asleep on this turn. And just a couple switch-ins from Emilio.
Yeah, I mean, maybe predicting a switch there to get out of this position and bring in the Landorus back. If Landorus had switched into an Icy Wind, that would have been devastating. Luckily for Eduardo, it doesn't happen, but he still get these two Pokemon out. We are going to be getting low on the overall timer for the game. These players have both had really long games, lots of your time, and almost out of real time.
Yeah. So we do have the knockout from Metagross onto that Cresselia as Icy Wind once more from Tapu Fini with about 2 minutes left into this round timer. This Tapu Fini now also at -3 speed as we get the Landorus in the back for I think Eduardo was his last Pokemon. And Muddy Water connecting finally with both Pokemon on Emilio's side. Does not...
it's still just not the damage output he needs.
Gets the accuracy drop on the Metagross though, but... I think we got 2 minutes left, less than 2 minutes now, and this Landorus I think is the last Pokemon in the back for Eduardo.
It's going to probably need to lock itself into Earthquake, but you can't do that because the Landorus is on the other side. I just don't know how you. Then if you don't lock yourself into Earthquake, you're looking for Rock Slide to flinch,
Flinches.
and then Tapu Fini to be your damage output. We've seen how the last 5 or 6 turns have gone where Tapu Fini is your damage output. It's just not going anywhere nearly fast enough. I think it's just a matter of time at this point, whether it's the matter of time in the timer or in the damage coming out.
Yeah, especially because like Emilio still has all 4 of his Pokemon. We saw that Amoonguss in the back too, like growing health. It's gonna take Rock Slide so comfortably, even with like thousands of flinches or however many, how many times Landorus can click Rock Slide on Eduardo's side, and just eating up this time now as Metagross being switched out on Emilio's side for the Landorus. So in case Eduardo locks himself into Earthquake, it's not going to be hitting this Landorus here. Just going to get that Intimidate, just going to lower that attack from Earthquake, that damage output. And Landorus going to lock itself into Rock Slide, just not going to want to risk that. Connects with both Pokemon, just really sad damage because of that Intimidate. Does get the flinch on Tapu Fini, and the Tapu Fini on Eduardo's side going to be connecting this Muddy Water onto both Pokemon. Going to do some okay damage on the Landorus. Does not get any accuracy. Oh, just get the accuracy drop on Tapu Fini. And I think we've got like almost nothing left in the round timer.
Yeah, and whether there was an hour left in the round timer or not, there's just not any way back in this game, I don't think.
All right, and the Rock Slide from Landorus going to be connecting only with Landorus on Emilio's side. The Tapu Fini avoiding on that. But the Icy Wind from Tapu Fini, both Pokemon avoiding it, and gets the flinch from the Landorus as well.
Well, if there's any way back, it starts with things like that.
Yeah, as Muddy Water connects on from Eduardo onto both Pokemon, picks up the knockout onto Landorus, gets another accuracy drop onto Tapu Fini on Emilio's side. They are going into the 3 turns now. Emilio's Tapu Fini going to be eating that berry. That was quite the turn.
Yeah, quite the turn. Just too little, too late. We're turn 0 here, so we have 3 turns left. You're looking at Rock Slide plus Tapu Fini KOing that Amoonguss in 3 turns.
Oh, gosh.
Rock Slide plus Tapu Fini KOing that Tapu Fini in 3 turns. No. He's going to, give it his best effort. Amoonguss is going to just probably try to put things to sleep here. We'll see if it can get any scores off.
All right, and so another Rock Slide from Landorus going into that Amoonguss and Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini getting the Icy Wind. Another avoid from Eduardo's Tapu Fini, but does hit that Landorus, and it is going to be dropping its speed. It gets it to a little bit, just still over half. Another minus attack on there. Tapu Fini using Muddy Water, connecting with both Pokemon on Emilio's side. Just getting into the half. And we will be getting another flinch onto the Amoonguss.
Yeah.
So it does not, it can't spore.
No spores off this turn, but that Icy Wind lands on Landorus, does about 50% health, and also really importantly makes that Landorus slower than that Metagross in the back.
God. So another, because of Choice Scarf, we do get another Rock Slide from Eduardo's side onto this Tapu Fini and Amoonguss. A flinch onto the Tapu Fini on Emilio's side. Muddy Water connects with both Pokemon. From Emilio's side, does okay damage on there, and we will have a Spore from Amoonguss, so this Landorus will be put to sleep.
Yeah, one more turn here. If Moonblast can KO the Tapu Fini, they'll at least have to do the math, figure out which player has more health left. It may be closer than it seems. All the flinches on Tapu Fini, the late sleep here mean that he didn't get another KO and didn't take a 3-1 lead, but that's how you deny the Moonblast KO.
There you go. And so we've got the switch in from Emilio into that Metagross from Tapu Fini as Amoonguss goes for a protect this turn, and the Landorus going to be staying asleep because of that necessary sleep turn, and we will have Tapu Fini using Muddy Water one more time. Does connect with that Metagross, but I think that is turn 3.
Yeah, that should be the end there, and a 3-2 lead will take it home for Emilio.
Another accuracy drop onto this. Like, Eduardo got these secondary effects too little too late into that end game, but
yeah, I mean, it became a very slow-played game once that Metagross went out, but I think Emilio just played it in a really smart way where he knew the damage output was gone, he had the lead, he could just take his time and play very carefully and slowly reach that win condition. He was going to eventually win that either way, but wins it there on time.
Yeah, I mean, all those flinches too. Like talking about how he needs those flinches to just kind of win this game, and that's kind of what we ended up with. I think, despite kind of knowing exactly which way the wind was blowing for this match 3, it was just still kind of fun to see all those drops and just
so many side effects, so many Rock Slide flinches and Muddy Water accuracy drops and Icy Wind misses.
That was ridiculous, the double miss on Icy Wind. And, I think there's not a lot that Eduardo could. I did appreciate him switching out that Hydreigon for the Cresselia, because I think that Cresselia was able to at least throw off
maybe,
Emilio
but
with the switch, but it hurt him in the end.
Yeah, I think maybe it could have worked if Metagross had stayed around and provided the damage, but I think it really hurt him once Metagross went down, because if he still had Hydreigon, he still has a way to be threatening lots of damage. but with Cresselia and no Psychic Cresselia, it's just
That's a good point.
it's just no way to put out enough damage. You know, I think it's an interesting matchup because it was nearly a mirror. Both players brought 3 of the same Pokemon. We did have 2 different types of Landorus's. I think the Landorus, both Landoruses had their pros and cons. I think the Icy Wind on Emilio's side made his Landorus, mitigated the effect of not having the Choice Scarf on his Landorus. And so mostly a mirror match, and then I think the real difference maker was that Amoonguss was so much more valuable than anything Eduardo could add in the 4th slot, and that decided that match.
Yeah. No, it's been so crazy, too, because I feel like Amoonguss is, you know, even as a support Pokemon, always puts in so much work, and that whole terrain war thing, too, like Emilio understanding that, hey, Eduardo's got his Tapu Fini here, so I'm free to Spore now, like keeping track of those terrain turns, too, especially, and just, I think, just really good job from Emilio kind of understanding that and just protecting that Spore.
Yeah, and bringing in Amoonguss 3rd time, I don't know if he was predicting that Trick Room, if he even knew it was there, but it was another point where maybe Trick Room could have been a difference maker in this mirror match, but then Amoonguss hit the field at the exact right moment, just punish that Trick Room.
That's always so rough when you do that, too, and you're just like, why? Oh, but just, you know, going to a Game 3, like, that's just hard to do sometimes. So good job to Eduardo, and congratulations to Emilio going, I think, 7-1. No, sorry, 6-1.
Yeah, 6-1.
I cannot count for some reason at the end of the day, guys. And we will see you for the last round here at Costa Mesa Regionals. Thank you for joining us, and see you in a little bit now.